Hello, hello. Just organizing the VOD codes, all that. Right, let me post the code real quick in Spylo's server too, so I can rub it in his face that I exist. I don't know. That's a good question. Let me let them out, and then they can flap around and land on the back of my chair and stuff during the VOD. I would try and see if I could get one of them on camera, except I don't think I want to be on camera today because I look like a mess after walking around for the past 5.5 hours. Oh my gosh, why is ad block not work? Whatever. I'll also have to suffer with the random music interruptions. I'm gonna take a quick look at a section in one of my VODs, and then I'll jump into yours. I think Tricio had one, but it got erased, and it hasn't had a good one since he's been rolling. So, was Busan on tank? Maybe Busan was. I know, right? In the announcers in a tournament thing were calling him Trico, and I'm just like, what kind of butcher are you? Like, who sees Tricio playing Lucio and calls them Trico? Those dudes are just built different. Trico is a great Pokemon, like no shade on that. I'm a huge Pokemon fan myself, but just incorrect. I never know if I should roll out on left or right here. I feel like I should have gone right side maybe and gone a little wider. Because the problem with left is it doesn't actually give me that much flexibility, and I'm kind of just sitting here on their front line. My ball is kind of out there. It's pretty solid. It's one of my like. It works well for me because I had been playing tanks, and then I had been playing tracer, and then I decided to pick up ball, and he's pretty much the hybrid. So he's probably one of my like 2 high diamond to masters-ish range tanks, though it's kind of hard with like ball to know what I'm doing, and frankly I'm probably not masters level knowledge out with him. Probably just diamondish. I remember just getting abused here because they had the Brigand Cree. I think what I should have gone for is I should have gone for long range poke from right side. Because if I had been on the stairs and just kind of like drawing attention this way, I'd be able to roll back for the vertical cover. Because the problem is, like, now that I'm in the midfield, there's no way I get out without taking damage. Yeah, that was stupid of me. And then I basically feed. I get out alive, but yeah, I shouldn't have gone back in there. I need to grab mini. So I only just realized, like, a couple of days ago, aka when I did this game, that this Downtown Busan only has 1 mega health pack. Like, let me double check real quick, but I'm almost certain that it. Yeah, so there's minis, mini. Are there megas in here at all? Yeah, no, it's just the one mega. So that's kind of that feels bad. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to see where like recheck my engagement there. Sometime I'll actually do like a series VOD of my own play, but I would have to submit it to my own channel selection thing. Okay, yeah, this is the right one. So Ana Mercy.
Traveling to Volskaya Industries. Ready for battle.
Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. No, because yeah, I'll check it out in a moment. Thanks for the heads up on the thing. Busan Sanctuary has 3 because you have the one on coast and then you have 2 on the interior side, like towards either of the spawns.
Ready for battle.
Yeah, I think Mecha Base only has no. Are those no? Are those minis or megas in the inside rooms? I think we can check it out after this VOD actually, because now I'm curious. So the deal with Ana on this map, I'm gonna turn down my music a little bit so I can focus a little more. So the deal with Ana on this map is that you're gonna be, so it's a control point map, and one of the tricky things, or an assault map for the formal terminology, and the tricky thing with Ana and Zen is you're gonna have to rotate in decisively, because what I will see a lot of Ana and Zen players do, I say Ana and Zen because they have very similar positioning requirements, because they're both very brittle heroes, semi-long range heals, want some sightlines on the enemies, etc. But a lot of them will kind of just waffle around and choke here for an eternity, and then as soon as their tanks start taking space, they'll kind of just sit here and passively get like sniped from these angles, and then their tanks will start going in, and there'll be too much space between the tanks and the healers, and you'll get separated, or someone will ambush you from the side. So usually what I like to see is you decisively move in to try and make plays when your tank line is trying to get the space, and then you rotate into your next position. So it can just be to here, and then like healing from the doorway and then coming back out, or it can be to here, and then like healing from here to here. It can be all the way through here. If you push back everyone enough, it can even just be straight in. But like there has to be decisive movement. So I'm interested to see how now you're F7, okay. Kudos on using the Ghoul skin. That's like one of my favorite Ana skins. It's a little like edgy, but it's a classic. You have good taste. This is gonna be super nitpicky. But I'm gonna lead off with it just for fun. But I wouldn't go in here as on at most elo. Well, okay, so this is kind of a complicated issue because so sometimes there'll be a sniper here, and then you obviously can't roll out on this side because you'll just get headshotted instantly. You can't roll out through this side because of Lucio, so I guess I don't mind going through here, but you also have to be careful because especially at low elos, your team will take a lot of chip damage even just walking up to the choke. So just like kind of a reminder to be careful with what where you're going, because if you're in here you can't actually heal those teams, and sometimes they'll just die instantly to a Junkrat mine before they even get to the choke. So I think that what you're doing is fine, but just kind of like a little side train, I guess. Heal the junk, yep. Hog doesn't need too much sustain. You could be looking for a nade here. I don't really love that, because your tanks are, well, more than don't love, I actually dislike it actively. Because nade is one of the most impactful abilities in the game, and you toss it out here when your tanks are full health, and it's not a crime to use nade to heal, okay? But you have to make sure that they need that healing, and that there couldn't be more value from it elsewhere. So you have to consider, well, are there people I could have anti-naded, or am I going to potentially need it like in a couple moments later? So I think here both of those would be yes. You could have naded other people. Like, I don't know if you saw the Torb here earlier, but you could have just naded him for the extra damage and anti in case someone was going to heal him. Or potentially more valuable is healing yourself as you cross over to here. Yeah, so nade and sleeps, like, they're very high skill cap abilities, so it's always going to be a constant work in progress. I think I would have wanted to save the nade here. So the fundamental rule I would say with nade is you don't want to use it on things if you can avoid it before a fight. Like if your team is about to do something, you don't want to be using nade. Because if they're wanting to do something, then you want to be doing something too. So your team is rotating in here, and I think that you need that nade to cross this space safely, because your tanks really are not escorting you in, and because you're on the right side instead of the left, you're probably going to take a lot more poke damage trying to cross into the left side. That's a good nade. I like that. You don't need to go so close to your tanks. Like, I'm noticing that you're kind of having to swivel around a lot to heal these Rhines and Hogs and stuff as they kind of orbit around you. If you just, like, yeah, I want you, like, close to the wall, but you can just stand, like, a little further back here. Like, maybe, like, back here on this corner. Or just stay here at this corner instead of following them in further. I don't know if you do that or if you go further in with them. But if you just, like, kind of get off your tank's butts, it'll be a lot easier to keep track of them, heal them, and stay safe. Okay, good. You're staying at this corner. I like that. No. Just leave him. He's fine. He's fine. Or if you wanted to help him, you actually could go over to here and land the flank nade, and I guarantee you that would win the duel. Or at least significantly help him, and it's probably more valuable. Because, like, over here, it's like, well, what's more valuable? The hog, like, healing up your hog, like, who's going to win this? An Ana-pocketed hog or a Mercy-pocketed Sig? It's kind of even, but I think I would prefer, I think I'd favor the Mercy-pocketed Sigma, just because he has, like, a lot more burst damage potential and flexibility in his kit. So if you're both on this same sightline, it just kind of, it stalls out at best. Like, there's no way to decisively kill these two people. But if you just stay over here, you toss in a quick nade and then keep looking down main, you're able to not abandon your front line, you're not compromising your position, and you're also helping out your hog on the side duel. I don't think it's wrong to help out the hog on the side duel, but I think there is, like, a better way to go about it. And really, he doesn't need the help either. Yeah. Or even a sleep. Like, a sleep here would work too. I can't. It'd be harder to land, and so that's why I don't mention it. And I think nade might just be more impactful. But so yeah, be careful not to get kind of like drawn in by what your teammates are doing, because while you want to back them up and be assisting, it's like the thing when like they tell you in driver's ed. I don't know if you've taken driver's ed yet, but they're like, well, you'll drive where you look. So you want to be looking at the road and not looking at things on the side of the road because then you'll drift. So if you're looking at these things on the side of the road, like this hog on his duel, you'll kind of drift towards there a little naturally. And while you want to help him out, now you're in a very compromised position, and if they recontest, you could be in danger. Ah, that was a good look for the sleeve. Unlucky that I missed. That's just a mechanical thing to keep practicing. I like this position a lot. This is really good. Beautiful. Unlucky. Mechanics are just always a thing to get worked on, but no dice if you miss it. I would actually try and ensure the kill on the BAP here. Actually, never mind. He's going to be feeding because he can't get back. No, so this is actually fun. You could have kept the junk alive, yeah. At the same time, though, you looked to heal him and you missed. I'm not going to knock you for, like, trying the right thing and failing. Like, that's... It's unfortunate that it didn't work out, but there's nothing you can do about it except just play more, practice more, and get more stuff done. Yeah, with like if you have the right intentions and you're doing the right thing, I find that a lot more valuable, even if it doesn't work, than like doing the wrong thing and having it work out, or just doing the wrong thing. Period. Here, I don't think it's wrong to be in main. I personally like this high ground a little more, just because it gives you a little more cover options with like, you can close the angle with this vertical cover, and you can use this horizontal cover to get closer and further. Yeah, you could have gone for a no scope instead of hard scope. I personally don't think that micro stuff like that is that important, frankly. Like, I almost exclusively have worked on macro with my tanks, and it's single-handedly gotten me from like goldish to high diamond. And I know for a fact that you can you can perform even at like higher levels than that with a focus on macro and decision making. Macro being like positioning and timing. Over like the small micro details. So I think like the micro details can get like ironed out and stuff, and I like you are right, but I'm not gonna knock it much. You could look for a slight angle on the nade here, or like a splash nade. Make sure you're keeping the cover. That's an okay nano. I don't mind that at all. Nice help on the turret. That's good value. I like that you're looking for the shots on the Mercy there, even if it doesn't work out. Don't worry about the Junkrat. Yeah, toss him one shot. You didn't need to shoot him 3 times. You could have shot him like twice, and that's enough. Because your tanks are probably the more important sustain here. Like, I know everyone's like, oh yeah, don't forget to heal your DPS, and oh my gosh, all these supports always only heal their tanks. Fact of the matter is, if you don't fully have control of the space, the tanks are generally more important. Like, yes, you will need to heal so your DPS to not be critical, but once they're above like 50%, I would turn my like sights back to my Rhine, pop him again until he's in a safe range again, and then look back to the junk, or like some balance of that. So just like don't be too sucked in by DPS spamming I need healing and stuff. Good nade. Nice shots. Keep Mercy up, yep. I'm really glad you're keeping this positioning discipline. No, 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 no. I think you could have... I want to go back and watch that moment again real quick. No, okay, you made the right choice here. I wasn't sure if there was any chance of sleeping the pin, but there wasn't really. It was pretty fast and out of left field. Don't get drawn into the fight. Now you're in danger. But good cap. That was really good. So overall, the only thing I'm seeing is maybe like a couple burrs in your in like positioning and like target priority, but like it's all pretty minor right now. I assume things mostly go wrong on the defense here since it's a long VOD.
Switching sides. Initiating match.
You're here. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's always really like that's always a tough thing. I've always like so I played a lot of Ana. Not on this account, but on my main, it's like my third most played hero or something. I went from 1700 to like 2800 in like a couple seasons. And that was something that I struggled with a lot too, is like as soon as you scope in or even just like focusing on one area of the map, it can be so easy to tunnel and lose attention to what matters. I struggle with that a lot on Ryan and Tracer too.
My thanks. For optimal chance of where does it hurt? Damage increase.
Oh, the Bastion skill check. Bastion is like such a bizarre thing because he's so strong in the low ranks, but he's just such a bad hero, and it's basically just because he skill checks the ability for people to know how to take angles. Because like everybody just
5,
goes in and funnels into main in a lot of the low rank games or low to mid rank, and Bastion obviously runs that over. But as soon as you get someone who's like a Pharah or an Echo like taking an angle like this, or going all the way around, or a Sigma and his team like actually getting a clean rotation into this room and then having some people here and some people here, like basically as soon as you get any angles on Bastion, he just crumbles. So it's basically just a question of can you figure out how to take an angle and help your team out with that.
4, 3, 2,
My teleporter is online.
attackers.
But like down here, it's
Defend objective A.
yeah, I find a lot of games when you roll someone, it's really easy to get rolled back. I don't know if it's because of like letting your guard down or because of or like or if it's just like some tendency with like momentum or something, but I find like a lot of games can get really gritty quickly.
I'm here. Damage boost engaged.
I don't really like this. I like because the problem is I think it's a funny meme here, but the problem is if they have a Pharah like they do, you could get booped off or decimated basically before you can actually teleport back. So I think I would rather just have you chill in here, maybe boost your BAP or Hog or Orisa, and just leave your DPS to feed if they can't teleport back. Like this is a phenomenally stupid move because if the enemy team comes out here and comes out here, they already have control of this space, and you're going into enemy team territory with immobile characters and like just relying on your TP access to get you out. It's just really reckless.
I have located the enemy.
TP back, you're scaring me. Okay, you get back in, that's good. Bastion is in a terrible position. Yeah, but you might as well just pocket him, like. I would basically ignore Hog, just pocket Bastion, like the whole time.
Taking care.
Yeah, and BAP and Bastion. I don't think you always need to be moving around so much here. Frankly, I think you can probably just like you're in the open kind of here and like weak to like the Pharah damage, and if someone takes an angle here, you can really just stand right here, like or float, like do a super jump and float up to here, and just stand here, and just boost the different people. Like there's simpler ways to do what you're doing, I think. Bastion fed. dangerous res, but I like it because it's not too dangerous. I think that was valuable because the enemy team wasn't punishing it. But that was like, you have to be really careful on judgment calls with that. Because when you go in for res, your team doesn't have the healing and they don't have the damage pressure from your damage boost. And it can put you at a severe deficit if you're not careful.
We make a great team.
I would just boost hog. You can just play indoors. Good Valk. I like this. Don't go for the res, you're low. That's scary. You're lucky that that worked out. I wouldn't recommend resing if you don't have like, if you don't have the 200 HP. Like that's just kind of really dicey to me.
I'm taking care of you. Justice reigns from above.
I think you probably should have turned and blasted that Pharah as soon as you heard her. Like there's no out healing that you're gonna do that's gonna out heal the Pharah, and you don't actually have any hit scans besides BAP and Bastion, so damage boosting isn't gonna really reliably kill the Pharah any more than your blaster is. So,
This is not the end.
I think you needed to kind of just vamoose out of here as soon as you saw that hog there. Like you were rezzing and saw the hog. I think you need to be like way back by the mega now. Because like for you to linger in this area knowing that they now have an angle is really scary, frankly. Because like for example, if you had been here, see what happens. First of all, you see the Pharah and you can blast her and distract her.
Justice.
If she doesn't see you, you can just shoot her from here. Third, this hog comes in and actually doesn't hook you because he just doesn't see you. You might have hooked your BAP, might have hooked your hog. It's not really your problem as long as you're surviving yourself. Yeah, be careful with that. So like one of the biggest things on supports and Mercy is keeping track of like relevant flank threats. You also, like at a really high level, you have to keep track of the snipers and basically everyone as much as you can. But like as Zen, for example, I always need to know where the tracer is. Like pretty much at all times, or at least have a hunch of where they are. If it's wrong, so be it. I can recorrect what my hunch is next time. But you need to have an idea of what they're doing. So in this case, like if you look at their comp, it's like okay, you need to keep track of the Pharah, the Genji, the Hog. It's 3 people. It's kind of tricky to keep track of sometimes, but all of them are the people who can burst kill you and are relevant threats. So, like even Genji, you might not need to as much until you think he has Blade.
Wonders of modern medicine. Join me.
I hope you don't go all the way back in here and die.
Objective lost.
Damage amplified.
New defense.
Oh my gosh, Orisa, please come back. If she takes the teleporter, I'm gonna die inside. Yeah, your Orisa's just feeding ult charge right now. Yeah, just stay back.
I'm taking care of you. Form up.
I would just leave your Orisa. No, 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 no. Don't get drawn towards the feeding teammate. No.
Let's get you back out.
Oh my gosh, you survived. It's a miracle. If a teammate is doing something stupid, don't also do something stupid. #1 rule of survival in Overwatch. It's funny because one of my common sayings is if your team has a plan, even if it's stupid, you should just do it. That's not how I usually say it, but I'm tired, and that's the gist of it. Because like it's better to have 6 people following a bad plan than have 6 people following no plan. But this isn't a plan. This is one person feeding, and 2 people feeding doesn't make it any better. Unless it's 6 people feeding, then it's a plan. So, like, don't get drawn into your teammates' idiocy. Like, if they're making a stupid choice, you have to be the mature one and be like, okay, that dude's making a stupid choice. He's gonna die. What can we do to stop their, like, because you know that they're gonna die. You know that the enemy team is gonna come in hard after the person's death, probably. So then you're like, okay, well, what's my plan now? Maybe it's to try and build Volk by healing the Orisa a bunch, or maybe it's I'm gonna go play in a safe spot so that I can try for a res at some point, or call out for a DPS to take an angle. Like there, like just create some game plan and to, like as a reaction to the teammate feeding, rather than like kind of reflexively just heal botting in and being scared. This applies for all roles too. Like as a DPS, you can't just go help your feeding Zarya on the angle necessarily if your team isn't ready to push in anyways.
I've got you.
Good res, you have the shield.
Rains from above.
I think you could have blasted her instead of healing, but actually maybe let me rewatch that. Oh yeah, no, never do that. That just straight up feeding, because then yeah, it's just really bad. Unless it's like a Pharah or something, because then you can maybe get out. But even then, it's really dicey. Because then you just feed a bunch of ult charge too. This kind of comes into the keeping track of Pharah thing. Like, you can hear her near you, and you know that they're going to be coming in aggressively after killing the hog. So I think you have to be more aware of where people are, yeah. So, like, if you see a teammate feeding, that's where you know that the enemy team is there too. So I think the bigger thing that I'm seeing as a trend so far with Mercy is just being aware of where the enemy team is. Like, it sounds like a really basic thing, and because it is, but like if your one teammate is against 6 enemy teammates because you don't see them in choke and your teammate is dying, then you have to assume, well, 2v6 isn't going to be any different. And if they get a pick, then you have to be like, hey, okay, that means that their Pharah might be coming in aggressively. Where's the Pharah? Hey, Geomaster, what's up? Nice of you to stop by. I don't think this was necessarily a bad res, but in the context of not knowing where the Pharah is, I don't think it was a bad res. But in the context of knowing where the Pharah is or predicting it, if you had looked, I think you would see that it's not a good res in terms of like the actual situation of the game, if that makes any sense. Like, even to me, it looks like a good res until I know where the Pharah is and realize that she's right above me with Barrage. Yeah. That's another reason why I kind of like to play this angle a little more, is I feel like you get a little less obstructed sightlines. It's like a really nitpicky thing. But, like, because here, if they had like a Widow or something, you're actually like killable from in there, even while rezzing potentially. And here is like okay too, but it's a little dicier because it's a more accessible flank. So like over here is just like on the high ground. You can play this high ground as Mercy, and that's really strong actually, because it's gonna be hard for the enemy team to access you, and you have a lot of easy mobility routes. And you can drop into this cover, move into the side cover, all those options. Indeed, it is the budgies. Doesn't look like any of them are on the curtain rod. Just having a good time. Good to hear. So yeah, your team basically gets counter rolled here. Yeah, sensitivity was like mouse sensitivity was something that I struggled with a lot.
A clean bill of health.
I don't know what the metrics are really for controller sensitivity and like what people recommend, unfortunately.
Let me get you patched up.
Nice thing with Ana is you don't need like super high because you can play pretty far back and keep everyone in front of you, like the 180. So I think it might be better to keep it low and play like a little further back on Ana. With Mercy, you might want to keep it higher because so a lot of people are like advocate for having the same sensitivity across all heroes for the muscle memory. And this is kind of a hot take. I don't think that's necessary. I think it's necessary to like some extent. Like for example, if you're doing tracking heroes like Zarya and Tracer, I think you want the two of them to be on the same sensitivity so that you can like have that consistent mechanical building. But for example, like my Winston, I keep at a higher sensitivity. I think Smurf does this too. But like Mercy, for example, she doesn't need the same mechanics as Ana, and therefore I don't think you actually have to worry about the muscle memory being built or destroyed in the wrong way. I think you could safely have her on a higher sense. So I think you could find like a slightly higher middle balance for Mercy. But yeah, it's mostly just whatever is comfortable. Like toy around with it, but then eventually just decide on something and roll with it. Like I spent so long with different sensitivities on different heroes, or even different sensitivities on the same hero across different accounts, because I kept toying with it, and like eventually I just had to decide, and my mechanics have actually like become so much more consistent by just locking down a sensitivity. Like it's not my smartest moment of swapping it around all the time, but the important thing with awareness is it doesn't necessarily come from just having a higher sensitivity. It becomes like it also comes from prediction and sound cues. So it like you can kind of compensate. Like if you have lower vision, you just have to do more prediction and sound cues. If you have like higher sense and higher vision, you don't have to rely on as much prediction potentially because you can do quick glances. So like it's just kind of whatever concoction and cocktail of awareness tools that you want to use.
Your support has arrived. Heroes never die.
I wouldn't bother healing Hog here. Like Hog doesn't really need the heals. I think you could have kept the heals on Orisa or damage boost. Like just keep the beam on her, because then you could have reacted a little faster with swapping to heals as soon as she's being damaged, or damage boosting Bastion. Just like Hog is not that valuable of a healing target ever, because his percentage of his HP pool that he's healing is just so low, and he has his own heal. So like odds are that he's just not gonna get that much like relative value out of that healing.
You should be at peak performance level.
You're in the middle of point. This is kind of scary. Damage boosting Hog is okay though. Yeah, none of these guys need heals, so I'd just keep the damage boost on. Yeah. Yeah, your team is in really sloppy positions. There's only so much you can do here, I think. Like, just keep trying to stall it like you are and hope for the best. Yeah, there wasn't much you could do about that. Your team had, like, a really scuffed starting point to that fight, and at this point, I would just swap to Lucio and stall. I don't know if that's what you do, but
The wonders of modern medicine.
A lot of people like Mercy for stall just because she could res, but I feel like it's just like you just die when you get res anyways. So I usually just go Lucio or Moira for the stall. Sometimes Brig is okay too. Yeah, see, that's what happens when you try to res. I don't think there's really any worth to recontesting here as Mercy. But good job trying to keep this stall up. You guys have already bitten off a huge amount of their time. Good Lucio stall. Nice. 4 minutes to 2. That's pretty good. It's a really good time bank advantage. Of course, that's always something to struggle. That's like a difficult call too. Because, for example, I think there's been games that I've probably genuinely lost because I thought I needed to come back as a stall character. But then I could have come back on my more impactful hero that I play like more often. That's valid. Brig is an okay stall hero too. Bap is pretty good stall. With Lucio, if you want to like just be really good at stalling with them, you can honestly do like those Lucio Surf game modes that are all over the workshop, and those are actually like they speed you up and like boost you, but they're really nice for getting more comfortable with just wall riding feel, because like obviously if you're doing Lucio stall, it's not much sweat. Only Ana and Mercy. Okay. Yeah, then don't worry about it. Like doing the stall picks, like I think it's still more valuable probably to pick the Moira or Lucio even if you don't know how to play them, like in the stall situations, because really you'll still be able to slap stuff down. But I can give you a few Lucio pointers after this. He's more like he has a really high skill cap, but he's simpler than you'd think. Good job boosting the Widow here. I know far too many Mercies at your SR who would just be sitting here pocketing the tanks or something instead.
Don't let up on them.
Beautiful. And I'm glad that you're staying in the doorway too.
Still with you.
Nope, don't heal the Roadhog. Roadhog doesn't need you. Yeah, heal the Ana and come back to the Widow. Beautiful. Basically just leave that all to Ana except for... No. They don't need you. Don't worry about the tanks. Just worry about your DPS and your Ana.
Damage increase.
Nice.
Let me get you patched up.
Because this is why she needs you, of course. I wouldn't really recommend going outside choke there. I did, like your team had the advantage, but as Mercy you can actually just pocket them for the... Thanks, Willow. Thanks. Like, I think it's fine to go in and be looking for the follow-up on the, like, once you've won the fight, but I don't really like moving outside of the choke, because you can actually just heal from in the choke, and then you have the clear retreat path, too. Like, you weren't really under any threat, so it's not, like, a huge deal, but... on that game. Good call to group up, and I'm glad that you don't, I hope that you wouldn't have gone for a res there if you had res. She's upset indeed. She's just kind of sitting here looking at me while sitting on her cuddle bone thing. Looks like a surfboard because we have it sideways, and she's just looking at me and occasionally yelling. Not happy, Bob. Your team loses because they didn't force out the hog angle, I think, and because of Nanoblade. I mean, they just slapped down one... Or, no, that wasn't Nano. good instinct to look for the supercharger, but I want to see this real quick again. Sorry, my computer's a little laggy here, but it's because I have a Chrome tab open with my music still. I'm gonna close that and see if it cuts it down a little. So this is how I usually, this is when I do like my real VOD reviewing is from the overhead. This is like what I did for my Scream Team stuff. So you're on a Fed. I don't think you being there would have saved your Widow, unfortunately. You might have spotted the hog earlier, but that's about it. I don't like Guardian Angeling all the way up to here. It's not bad though. I think it's fine. Yeah, your tanks are clueless that a hog just wiped out both your DPS. Okay, here's my vibe. Here's my vibe here. I don't like that you're drifting towards right side when you know that there's a hog up here. Right? If you see that there's glass all around you and that you're starting to go into a fishbowl, you want to get out of that fishbowl. You want to be on the outside, right? You don't want to be surrounded. So you know that this hog is still a threat, and unless your hog is like willing to go up and deal with it, and I'm assuming that he isn't, considering he's like kissing this brig here practically, I think you should be weighing towards left side, even though they have the Pharah, just because I think that your retreat path here is a lot more perilous, because even if you get to here, there's less cover compared to here, where you have the indoor cover, you have the forklift cover, you have doorway cover if you need even, and the mega cover. So, and the more important thing is that you keep yourself from getting surrounded from the enemies, right? Because if I draw, like if you're looking at all the angles on the point here, you want to be on the outside of it. So if you're over here, you see this enemies, you see this enemies. You're on the outside. They don't have that angle. If you're here, you're directly in between them, and that's when things become really dangerous. So if you watch here, your team gets rumbled because they have this pressure from both sides. And then Pharah even, like, see the fishbowl? You have Genji on the front, Pharah on the side, Hog in the back. This is when things get messy. And this is how Bastion comps, for example, crumble. Or just Brawl in general. Is you take these angles, and as soon as you don't force out an angle, like if your Hog had gone up and dealt with this Hog, it would have been all fine and dandy. But if you don't contain these angles, everything just crumbles. This isn't like specifically as much for you on Mercy, but like it's an important macro concept to understand that does have ramifications on your positioning, as you saw. Like it caused, like you walked into this trap basically, and now you're trying to escape on Volk, but you're already kind of low and your teammates already been kind of smacked around. Yeah, you might as well heal Hog here. You don't have anything better to do. Damage boost him, damage boost him. He's not being hurt. Nice. Now heal again, heal again. I wouldn't bother with Ryan here. Focus on Hog. Ryan has a shield, and he's also a lot less impactful against all these healthy targets. Like the prime, like everyone's like, oh yeah, nano the Ryan, boost your Ryan, heal your Ryan, copy the Ryan when you're transforming on Echo, and it's like, well, can Ryan really reach people? Not much. Yeah, so that's always like it's kind of a struggle with Mercy, because in a sense that is partially true, is you are very limited to what your teammates are doing. And that's why she's like simultaneously, like people call her like the hero that you duo queue with and get carried by, and also like one of the easiest heroes, and like there's like a lot of complex stuff. I know SVB did a really good video breaking down that stuff, but I think a lot of the value comes in smart positioning in yourself in order to make fights unfair. So the problem, of course, is if you don't have the opportunity to make the fight unfair, then there's not much you can do. Like when the Widow is up here and there's a Hog in here, no matter what you do with that Widow, like healing her, damage boosting her, blasting the Hog with her, no matter what, it's an unfair fight in against you. Like the Hog is going to have an advantage against the boosted Widow, unless your name is Ons. Uh, but if it's like a Tracer duel or a Pharah or a Soldier or something, what you do is you boost them to make the fight unfair. When they're taking duels, they have an advantage. And by staying safe, they can't really remove that advantage. So, like, unfortunately, this team comp doesn't really jive that well with Widow. Or with Mercy. I think you should have boosted the Hog here, though, because he has the highest kill potential, and, like, he's the one who can make like he has the matchups that you can potentially tilt in his favor, right? Like Ryan, all of this matchup, he's surrounded, they have a supercharger, his shield is low. No matter what, he's gonna be disadvantaged in this fight. Hog, like so this fight is probably lost regardless, but Hog, he's ulting, he has the burst hook damage. There is a chance that your Hog could do something or at least stagger some people. So I think instead of healing your Hog here, I would focus, instead of focusing on your Rhine here, I would 100% be keeping your Hog up. You can even go back here for like a little extra safety. Yeah, you die, your Hog dies, and then Ryan just dies anyways, even after you're healing. But you get them down to overtime basically, so that's good.
Seconds remaining. New defense point. Objective B.
Yeah, that was actually really good. Like, that was a costly push for them. Unfortunately, because they use Supercharger, they almost have Blade again, which is really threatening. But they used up their Valk, they used up their Dragon Blade, they used their Rally, they used their Hoggle, I think. Yeah, they basically used everything except Barrage, and that's like a huge win for your team. Except that your DPS decides to swap the Soldier off the Widow, which I guess doesn't really change anything, but and your Hog used his ult, and your Ana doesn't have Nano yet, so you're still not like out of the woods here, especially because you know that they have Barrage because they didn't use it. I think I prefer you being with Soldier here. Like, Ryan isn't really doing anything, and healing him, like, heal botting him isn't actually going to do much. If you're up here in this room, you'd be safe. You'd be pocketing your Soldier, who's the most valuable tool against the Barrage when it comes. And he can probably actually get some kills or burn down shields or consume resources. Okay, so here's the thing with defensive ults. They are incredibly overrated. It's not that they're not strong, and like they're very useful tools, but compared to say sleep darting a Genji or like a Hog killing him or something, or boosting your Kree so he can kill them or something like that, I feel like it's like there's more valuable, like they're more difficult potentially trades to save yourself against like these powerful plays, but at the same time they're so much more valuable. I don't think it's wrong to like it's not like I'm like, oh, defensive ults are bad, but I don't think you specifically need to learn a hero for defensive ults. I think Lucio is like a solid flexibility option because like Ana Mercy is very much a spam focused healing line, because like Ana is okay in all comps. Mercy is good in spam comps and some dive comps. So I think Lucio might give you a better option for if you want to play like a brawlier play style. But it's up to you, man. It's like just whatever you enjoy and like have fun playing. And if you have fun playing a hero, like don't let not knowing how to play it stop you. Like just go out there and pick it up. It'll take some grind and it'll feel awful, but
10 seconds remaining.
This fair is scary. That was a terrible res. You resed in the middle of a fight. That's just never. There's no cover. Like, yeah, no cover. And no, the enemy team is coming in. You know the fair has ult, hasn't used it yet. Frankly, that was just kind of like a throwing res. And this is kind of like the reason of like pocket the soldier and stay on the edges too. Is as soon as you step into this middle area, that's when things get really deadly. I assume Ryan gets run over and then... Oh, that was a huge riptire. That was a huge clutch from Junk, actually. That was kind of monstrous. And whoever killed the Genji early on, that was big from them, because they didn't have... If they had bladed there, I think it would have just been done for.
Switching sides. Initiating reach. Ready for battle. Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
I think it's funny that on defense, you play the Mercy and the other support plays the Ana, and then on offense, both times, you play the Ana and they play the Mercy.
Hello. My ultimate is charging. That
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
it's just a scratch.
Defend
You'll be
objective
fine. Name.
What happened to your Ryan?
A. Ready for battle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend
It's just a
objective A.
scratch. You'll be fine.
I wouldn't recommend ever going on this side. I would always recommend going through and then to here. Because, yeah, they can see you and they have like an annoying sightline, but if you kind of just duck your head back and then hustle out to this side, it's like right here, that's like a lot safer than if they have like Arisa pulls or boops and stuff, things like that. Okay, so that was kind of your mistake, is don't worry about what the fair is doing. Like, the fair has a pocket, they'll be fine. You're not even engaged, so it doesn't really matter what your fair's damage is taken. But if your Ryan is, like, trying to engage, you need to be backing that up. So, like, be aware of when your tanks are trying to do stuff, and be giving them the support they need, because, like, on the Ana, the tanks are your, like, responsibility. Hog still, frankly, shouldn't need much. He's just going to be a big old battery.
Name.
But your Ryan is going to need a decent amount of resources.
This will help.
I don't think that's really a valuable nade, considering it just self-healing and he's not engaging. But it's fine, because it'll be back up before you engage. Fair is feeding, or Junk is feeding. Mercy is maybe feeding. Farah is feeding. You're feeding. So everyone, basically what's happening is everyone's just staggering in here. Like, everyone's getting like a little too aggressive with the poke. And now you're dead when your team is trying to push in, and everybody's just getting like spread out.
It's just a scratch. You'll be fine.
9 feeding. Not a good nade.
My ultimate is ready.
Okay, you need to move in decisively here.
You're covered.
Ryan is waffling around. It's an okay nano. Ryan feeds. He charges off the cliff with your nano. Jeez. Oh, that was sad. That's kind of why I don't like to nano Ryan's if I can avoid it. Like, your team was all feeding, and like I can go back and watch this section a little more, but so far there's not much I could say because like it doesn't really matter what you do on a micro scale here when you and the rest of your team are all going in at like different moments and with people dead and all that. Like, I think it's a good idea to use nano for the damage reduction to get them to point, but it was kind of destined for failure anyways because like 1 or 2 members of your team were dead. So like there has to be something more decisive than like committing on like a half lost fight.
Heroes never die.
Focus on Bride. Reaper.
Take your medicine.
Run. Didn't need to nade that. Ryan wasn't actually under much pressure.
I have your back. Get me.
Not a huge nade, but it's okay. Good sleep.
This will only
Missed the offensive nade, I think. Ryan feeds. No, 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 no. You can't kill the hog. Don't worry about it. Yes.
powered up. Get in there.
Nade the hog. Nice. Just now stay off point in case they recontest. This is why you don't want to be standing on points. Oh no. The hog angle and the DPS. If you were standing back here, you would have seen the hog and you wouldn't be in danger from the soldier. Or if you rotated high ground. Yeah.
Der Kampf ist noch nicht vorbei.
Good thing you get res.
New defense point. Objective
You should nade him.
60 seconds.
Nice kill. Yeah. World record for most yawns. Total.
Helden sterben nicht. Helden
You don't really have a good damage boost target here, which is unfortunate. I would actually be focusing on boosting your Junkrat on the flank, because your Ryan doesn't really. Or no, sorry, I forgot that you're not the Mercy anymore. This is fine for Ana, but really, I think you need to be aware that they swap to Doom, like checking your tab. Did you see them at all? Let's see. Take the high ground. Let's pretend you went up to high ground. You're healing up. You see the Doom. Sleep him. Drop. So, yeah, stay on the high ground. Get to safety. You're scaring me in the middle here. Get off point. Get off point. Get off point. Good shots. Nice survival. Nice nade. You could sleep him, but this is also good. Just don't forget about him. Okay, he forgets about you, I guess. Yeah, you're kind of popping here. I think you could have gone for a sleep on the hog, but good shots on the Risa. That's good value. Nice. Okay, so first of all, I'm really glad that you're not afraid to like get your hands dirty with taking shots and stuff. Like that's a good trait for an Ana. I think my things for Ana are positional awareness. Like, I want you to be basically hugging corners and high grounds constantly, and like not just up the butt of your tanks. And then I want you looking for more offensive nade usage. I didn't talk about it because it takes a lot of time to like analyze where you could have done it, and frankly, I don't know how good my advice would be considering like my current tired mental state. But I guarantee you that there were chances for an offensive anti-nade, and I don't think I saw you do any. Like I saw you nade single targets occasionally when they like dove you, which is fantastic. But I think when there's like that hog, there's a lot more opportunity to look for soft off angles where you just like move like a little to the left to like shoot around the Rhine shield and stuff, or where you see a wall behind them that you can splash on. Like I think there's like anti-nade and like preventing healing is one of Ana's most key utilities, and I feel like you weren't tapping into that really at all. With Mercy, it's like, so this is also a thing with Ana, of course, but I don't want you focusing on too many things at once for two different heroes. So like I'm giving you kind of a separate checklist. With Mercy, it's res people when it's safe to do so. So like analyze the safety and risk versus reward of the res. Like it's okay to wait a moment on the res and just think about it. Like odds are the extra 2 seconds that it might take of just sitting there and waiting to figure it out is not gonna make or break the res. Like I would rather have you think about it and be too slow to get a res than not think about it and feed. And then think about where the enemy team is, like where the key threats are positioned. You don't have to think of where everyone is positioned. Just pick like the 2 biggest threats out of the enemy team and try and like keep track of where they are during the game. You don't always have to be looking for them. You have to be predicting. You can like predict and then cross check it. You can just give like a thought on where they might be. You can visually look for it. You can heal. You can ask your teammates if they've seen them. There's 1,000 options. So with Mercy, I think you could be definitely looking to keep tabs more on the enemy team there. So you have nades and positioning on Ana, and then specifically high ground and corners. And then for Mercy, it's threats tracking and res safety checks. Do you have any questions about these heroes or just anything I said in the VOD, comments, etc.? I know I kind of blitzed it, and like if I was doing like coaching, I probably would be trying to get a lot more interaction and all that. But yeah, general awareness is definitely something to focus on for both heroes. It's actually something for all heroes, frankly. Like it's a huge one for me on Sigma as off tank. He's my main hero because you can do so many things at once, but you can't stop them all. So you have to be very aware of what's the most threatening and like where things are. Like if I'm on Tracer and I'm like going into targets here, but I'm not aware that there's a Tracer behind me, that's like a huge problem. Because I need to know that this is like an unfair duel and just back out. And this applies for the healers too. Like with the Ana, this is basically the same situation where that you were in, is you had a hog here and you're like over here healing your teammates and stuff, and you're not aware that this hog is here and being a threat. So that definitely applies not only to Mercy but any hero. But at the same time on Ana, I think I would rather have you focus on your general positioning and nades first, just to like brush those up to a base value.
Go to sleep.
And then with Lucio, I was saying that I was gonna give you like a basics run through on him. It's basically speed boost if your team is going somewhere, heal if your team is not, if your team is just standing around, and shoot people like a maniac. And then wall riding is kind of just a mechanical skill that you have to develop by playing Lucio. So when in a stall situation, you'll just basically be on on your speed or heal like swapping or whatever. It doesn't really matter what you are because speed will make you harder to hit. Heals will keep you alive a little longer. It doesn't really make a difference once they start shooting at you and killing you. But yeah, you could just practice like wall riding around in practice range, things like that, and make him at least like a stall pick. He is really fun, honestly. Like he's a well-designed hero. And like he was never formally one of my mains or like even like in my kit, but I actually have ended up playing a lot of Lucio anyways. Like I got to 2800 mostly playing Ana, Brig, and Lucio, and like a little bit of Bab. Ba, 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 ba. The theory is that it optimizes, like, you get a little bit of both. It's kind of stupid. Like, I can't speak, maybe there's like some secret Lucio tech that I don't know about with it. But in all honesty, you could, like, the only reason you need to switch back and forth is if your team is doing something. So if you think your team is doing something, you swap to speed, and maybe they're not, and then you swap back to heals. And then like there's a quick swap, but like if you're just like going in or if you're sitting around, there's no reason to be on speed. Like if you just have like an Orisa here and you're just like sitting here shooting the enemy team, there's zero value to being on speed. And like that's why Lucio isn't meta that often, because long range heroes don't need his speed, and dive heroes don't need his speed because they can get in anyways. So the only heroes that are actually getting value out of his speed are immobile short range heroes, aka like Sim, Reaper, Ryan, Zarya. So he's like kind of niche, but he's fun and you can play him, get a lot of value on ladder and have a lot of impact, and he's good for stall. But like in terms of the sitting here on heals, if your team doesn't need the speed, then it might as well, like you might as well just be on like Brig or BAP or something. Yeah, I think Lucio is a great addition to be able to play for brawl comps. So I wish you best of luck in like learning him a little bit and stuff. I think it'll be a fun challenge for you probably. Okay, we're going for broke here. Yes, sir. Yeah, like Ryan Rosari is basically the meta up till plat. Like people are like, oh yeah, the meta is ball Zarya or whatever. It's like, no, it is not. Not at not at plat and below. I like to think of meta as like the abbreviation most effective tactic available. It's not what it stands for, but it's like a nice acronym for it. Because it's like, well, if the most effective tactic in gold is the Ryan Zarya, that is the meta in gold. So I think it's useful to be able to play heroes that complement that. Obviously, it won't like always do a ton because with Lucio, you're like Ryan needs to be decisive and like going places, but you can definitely help support that aggro. But yeah, the modes that like, are pretty helpful for learning the Lucio mechanics are these. I'm probably really rusty, but instantly dies. Wait, I don't get to. Hold up. What kind of scuffed? What kind of scuffed version of this is this? Okay, well that's just... Anyways, but yeah, modes like that are good for learning Lucio stuff. Are there any last other questions, or... Because otherwise, I'm probably just gonna call it a day so I can take a shower and stuff since I don't have any more replays. I also have a bunch of accounting homework tomorrow, oh boy. Yeah, you can feel free to drop one in or send one to Joe or any like that next Saturday, since I do it once a week. Alright, well, I'm gonna call it a stream. Thanks for coming, thanks for listening, thanks for dropping in the replay. Helps uh, keep my mind agile, since I'm not currently on a team or anything, and I like to keep in practice, since eventually I might look into like actual coaching. So, yep, best of luck on the climb, man. And with that, I shall end the stream.